Hi you guys! Welcome back to another Scribbles by Alicia YouTube video. Today I thought I would take some time out to make a little video for all of my followers who suffer from IBS, IBD and other bloating conditions. The idea for this video came to me when I found out over the Christmas holidays that one of my friends has recently been diagnosed with IBS. For those of you who don't know what IBS and IBD is, IBS and IBD are otherwise known as irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease. So in just a moment, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 tips with you that I have learned through my 4 years of suffering. But first, I thought I'd share with you my journey and how I ended up with this ridiculously annoying condition. So first off, I just want to clarify, I don't actually have IBS. I have something called systematic bloating. But if you are a sufferer of IBS, you are probably well aware that it takes a really long time to get a final diagnosis. It actually took me 3 years to get diagnosed, and I can truly say that they were 3 of the worst years of my life. My systematic bloating or IBS journey started when I was doing my GCSEs, which is when you're in year 11. I actually remember once I was bloated so bad and I was in my school uniform. And one day I actually got pulled aside by my tutor and she asked me if there was anything that I wanted to tell her. She was basically insinuating, "Are you pregnant?" That was horrifying. For someone to imply that you might be pregnant at 16 years old, especially when you were as good as I was a bit of a kick in the gut. But looking back, I completely understood where she was coming from. When I say I bloated like a balloon, I am not joking. I looked 6 months pregnant. I went back to the doctors a few more times and then they decided to run the IBS test and they also decided to test me for celiac disease. And if you have gone through this process, trust me, I feel for you. So I went for the tests and they all came back negative and they told me to go away and follow something called FODMAP. I found this extremely unhelpful and it didn't narrow down my problem at all. So they sent me for the IBS and the IBD and the celiac test 3 times. They decided that they wanted to send me for the test for a 4th time. Now this test was not pleasant and I finally got the courage to sit in the doctors and say, "I clearly don't have this. Why are you looking for something that's not there?" So at that appointment, I was lucky enough that my doctor listened to me and they set up an appointment with a specialist. This particular specialist was about an hour away and it took 6 months for that letter to arrive in the post. When that letter finally arrived, I cannot tell you how happy I was. Something or someone might know what's wrong with me and why every time I eat I am in so much discomfort. At the end of the appointment, he actually had a diagnosis for me, and that was the day that I got diagnosed with systematic bloating. Tip number 1. I've already spoken about peppermint tea, and I have to say it's the best thing I have found for helping me with bloating. When I first started with peppermint tea, my IBS was in really bad condition. So one of the things that I did was that I would drink a cup of peppermint tea 30 minutes before I ate my dinner. And I really felt that this helped my bloating and also aided the digestion process. I don't have to do this anymore, but when I didn't have control over my IBS, this was something that really helped me. Tip number 2. Some of you may have heard of something called periodic fasting or scheduled fasting, and this is basically where you don't eat between certain times of the day. Now, most people do this when they are trying to diet. It allows your blood sugar to get low enough for you to burn off fat and stops you from snacking on unnecessary things. However, I didn't do this for weight loss, I did it for my IBS. So one of the things that I started to stick to, like it was the be-all and end-all of life, was that I never ate after 6 p.m. I found that this really helped my body catch a break. It was clearly struggling with what it had to do, so by giving it that time before bed and that time while I was asleep, it gave it a chance to recover. I don't do this anymore either, but again, if I was ever suffering from a flare-up, these are the things I would go straight back to. Tip number 3. This one is a little bit weird, and it's something that lots of people probably wouldn't think of. So our stomach acid is obviously acidic, and it's acidic so that it can break down the food that we eat. And water is something that you call neutral. So when we drink water, it makes our stomach acid more alkaline. And whilst this is fine normally, when you've just eaten, you really need your stomach acid to be acidic. Your stomach acid is the main barrier between you eating your food and the rest of your digestive system. So one of the things that's really important is to not drink any water in the 30 minutes running up to eating a meal. This allows for your stomach acid to be at the perfect pH and gives it a chance to break down your food before it goes on to the rest of your digestive system. But remember, digestion takes time, so I also would recommend that you don't drink any water for half an hour after dinner. And this will hopefully allow your stomach acid to do its job. So this brings me on to tip number 4, staying hydrated. Our bodies need to be well hydrated in order to do everything that we do. in order to have a high metabolism, to burn off lots of calories, in order for temperature regulation, and of course, happy digestion. A lot of people drink water with their meals, but now that I've told you that you can't really do that, you need to make sure that your body's well hydrated before you sit down at that dinner table. Everyone should be drinking a minimum of 2 litres of water a day. And one of the ways that I manage to keep this is that I have my own little fancy water bottle that I love, and I know that it holds 500 mils of water. So I know that I need to drink 4 of those a day in order to meet my minimum water requirement. The other great thing about staying hydrated is that as water is running through your body, your digestive system is slowly chugging along. If you don't stay hydrated between meals, your digestive system is in a constant state of stop, start, and that for somebody who's a sufferer of IBS is a really difficult thing. Tip number 5, exercise. Now I know we don't always love this one, but it's actually really important. Lots of science journals go on about the happy hormones that we release when we exercise, but not many of them pick up on the fact that those hormones are so important in regulation throughout your body. Chemicals that help you maintain your temperature and chemicals that help you maintain a healthy digestive system are all released and moderated whilst you exercise. I'm also going to drop in here that yoga is such an amazing thing for IBS. I did a whole section in my yoga video on how it helped with my IBS, and soon I will be uploading a yoga tutorial for anyone who's a beginner and wants to give it a go. Another exercise which I think is so helpful is swimming. The reason I think swimming is so helpful is because you're pretty much weightless when you're in the water. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm guessing that by being weightless, it takes the pressure off your digestive system and it takes the pressure off the rest of your body. Tip number 6. So lots of people don't know this, but bloating is basically water retention. And what that means is that your body is holding onto water. And most of the time, this is the reason for the swell of your stomach. Now, I love snacking, and you should see me on a movie night. I have Doritos, popcorn, sweets, a glass of wine, and sometimes I will take that bag of Doritos, cover it in cheese, stick it under the grill, nachos. But unfortunately, the more salt you eat, the more water your body retains. So if you're currently going through really bad IBS, I would really recommend that you steer clear of salt. Don't get me wrong, I don't live my whole life like this. If you watch my Instagram story, you know I eat my fair share of junk. But I don't do it when I'm going through a really bad session of bloating. And I'll let you into another little secret that I have, because I know that my body is prone to bloating. When you do get control over your IBS and you decide that you want to have that binge night, limit the amount of water you drink that day. I know that I talked about staying hydrated, and that's so important for 99% of the time. But if you know you're going to eat a load of salt that day, try and steer clear of too much water. And then the day after, make sure that you rehydrate. This will hopefully avoid you from becoming really bloated. Tip number 7. So this one is called belly breathing. It's actually mentioned in my yoga post, and it's also mentioned in my YouTube video about yoga and why it's magic. So I'll try and walk you through some belly breathing now. Don't judge me, I will probably look a little bit silly. Okay, so if you place your hands on your stomach, you don't have to, but to begin with, it really helps you get an idea of what it's about. So as you breathe in, feel your tummy expand all the way out. And if you want, even push your stomach out. Allow that bloating to release. And then as you exhale, suck your tummy all the way in, feel your lower back engage. Do that for about 5 minutes. With every inhale, feel your stomach expand, and with every exhale, bring your tummy back in. This allows your digestive system to have lots of room and to move around. Tip number 8, belly rub. So this one can be done by a loving partner, a caring mother, or yourself. So by rubbing your stomach, you can massage your digestive tract and help everything move along. This one is probably something I only do when I'm really in a pinch, because I've used all my other tips so far to try and prevent the bloating in the first place. Tip number 9. This one is really for all of you girls out there. I'm gonna take a wild guess that most of the viewers watching this video are girls anyway, but if you're a boy, you might wanna skip on to tip number 10. Be prepared for your time of the month. I don't know about you guys, but my bloating is so hard to control when it's my time of the month. There's so many extra hormones, and your body's already dealing with so much that it can't control everything. And I think it was only about 6 months ago where I put all of these 10 tips into my everyday life that I truly started to get a handle on it. I don't know anyone who has it easy, but the key word I want to point out here is prepare. I find that my easiest times of the month occur when I've been really good for a week. On the weeks coming up to your period, try and make sure that you stick to these tips. My final tip, tip number 10, finding your comfort spot. This is basically encouraging you to move around when you're in a horrible bloated situation. Sit on the floor, curl up in the shower, do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable. I don't care if you're hanging off the ceiling or swinging from a curtain rail. If it makes you comfortable, do it. And one of the things that I love to do when I'm really bloated is I put my yoga mat out on the floor, although you don't necessarily need one, and lie flat on my stomach. And with my bloated stomach pressed against the floor, I take some nice deep belly breaths like I talked about earlier. I find that this helps compress my bloating. Whilst I'm lying on the floor, I feel so much better. Lastly, before I round this video off, I just want to let everyone know who's watching that you're not alone. So many people suffer with things like IBS, IBD, systematic bloating, and something that I really want you to keep in mind is that there's a huge difference between bloating and weight gain. I spent the first 3 years of suffering feeling so fat, not being able to fit into my clothes. I think I donated half my wardrobe to a charity shop. But bloating is not gaining weight. And no matter how bloated you are, remember that you're beautiful, and remember that it's just a really rubbish situation that's put you here. So that's the end of my 10 top tips. I really hope that you guys found this helpful. If you have any tips and you're a sufferer of IBS, please drop them in the comment section below. Or if you have any questions that you want to shoot over my way to see if I can help you out, you can also drop them in the comment section below, or jump on over to Instagram at Scribbles by Alicia and you can ask me an instant message in there. If you like this video, why not give it a thumbs up? I would absolutely love it if you guys subscribed. I'm pretty sure it's down there on my right, which means that it's on my left shoulder, so yes, subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Oh my god, I cannot get these words out of my mouth. I need to learn how to have more fun in these videos. I am literally... So am I... No. Blah, 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 blah. Don't know what is wrong with me today. I am so nervous. I'm gonna shake it off, shake it off. I did a whole section. So that's the end of my time. So that's the end